2 minutes until showtime.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into a Monday edition of the Computer America Show. Hopefully, all of you had a wonderful weekend and a happy Easter to all of you, too. Was it Passover, too? I think Passover. It's this week.
Yeah, they're pretty close.
Yeah, exactly. So, happy holidays to all of you. And we have a great show for you tonight. In the second hour, we're going to have a gentleman from the IBM cryptography division talking about identity mixer. And, oh, hold on.
One minute until showtime.
Oh, 1303 stops it.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello, and welcome into the Computer America Show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And welcome into a Monday edition of the Computer America Show. Hopefully all of you had a wonderful weekend, had a happy Easter, and Passover. You know, they were very close to each other. And we're having hopefully had a wonderful holiday weekend. Really, is what the best way to handle that. We have an interesting show for you planned tonight. In the second hour, we're going to have IBM here. We actually have a Dr. Jan Kamanish, who is with a cryptographer with IBM. We'll be talking about something called identity mixer and what that's all about. That's going to be coming up in hour 2 of the program. Again, congratulations to our show reminder of the winner of the week last week. The announcement already went out to him, and I assume that the prize is already making its way to him. And so, Ben, anything you'd like to talk about? I know it's been a busy week. I know you're coming back to Florida this Friday, I think, right? You're going to be back here.
Thursday.
Thursday.
That's comforting that the person who has to pick me up from the airport is confusing that by a whole 24 hours. So that's good. That's good.
Oh, yeah. Well,
back to Florida. Baltimore tomorrow, Florida Thursday. It should be fun.
Baltimore. Okay.
Fun couple of days.
Yeah, exactly.
In, like, I probably won't be here tomorrow night. For anyone who needed a heads up.
Well, maybe Aaron might do the show with me, or I've got a feeler after Charles Tendell, who also might want to do the show.
People do miss Charles.
Yes. Well, because it's going to be about identity and security, so it's going to be that. So anyhow, now our first hour guest is really interesting. So before I introduce him, anything else you want to mention before we get started with our first hour guest?
First, I guess no. It's I think we've been keeping waiting long enough, but no, nothing too much to report.
Okay, good. Well, just the our security people called and said that there was a possibility of a fire in the in there. I think the smoke detector might have gone off. But okay. Now let me just start out by saying the success of a company relies on its people, and protecting your assets by conducting background checks is a way to do that. So in other words, taking steps to properly screen your applicants can help you increase productivity and profitability by connecting the right person with the right position. Did you know there are different kinds of background checks, Ben? Did you know that?
No, I thought everyone just had one kind of background.
No, no. Oh, and by the way, if you have a comment or question for our guest tonight, you can give us a call at 347-884-8881. That's 347-884-8881. We'll get you on and get you through. That's the best way to do it. Email is live, L-I-V-E, at computeramerica.com. You can also do our live chat room. Just go to our homepage and click the chat room /video button, and you'll see a split screen. On the left-hand side is our entry form to go into the chat room, where our first hour guest is participating. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, it will start up automatically as our live Computer America video streaming page. That's right. Not only can you listen to the Computer America show, you can also watch the Computer America show. You can see myself, Ben, sometimes the guests. These are all the different ways to interact. But again, give us a call at 347-884-8881. Anyway, Sentinel Background Check's mission is to provide the highest degree of competent, accurate, and professional background screening solutions. Now, here with us is the CEO of Sentinel Background Checks, Rashid Zahidi. Rashid, welcome into Computer America. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Thanks for a great show. Much needed one.
Well, thank you for being here with us. I kind of glossed over, but why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about Sentinel Background Checks and what it is that the company does?
Well, Sentinel Background Checks does pre-employment screening, tenant screening, and we'd like to call ourselves a prerequisite to a safe hire because we'd like to help employers or anyone concerned to screen safely, responsibly, ethically, and in a timely manner, because those people can get into trouble not doing background checks, or they can get into trouble doing them but doing them the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's what your company does. It does these different background checks.
Yes, that is correct. And we serve background check companies as well, and we serve employers.
Okay. So do you do it for people? I mean, individuals? Can if I want to do a background check on somebody, can I call you and have you do a background check? Do you do that, or is it just strictly companies?
It's business to business mostly at the time for the time being.
Okay. You never get to people don't. I mean, some people want. I know when I wanted to date my future wife at the time, she actually did a background check on me.
I feel like you don't just hand someone a sheet of paper and say, "Hey, before we keep doing this whole hanging out thing, could you go and get this background check for me?" And I assume you do like the drug testing too, or is it just provide us a few pieces of personal information and we give you a full criminal history? Like what is included in a background check?
Well, I mean, a professional background check requires consent, and it requires the right disclosure as well. And you should be able to get a copy of that same report that the company does. That's one major difference between those professional and business ones, and the ones the free non-complete stuff that you see on the internet, or sometimes the paid stuff that you see on the internet that is just scraping old public records and old databases, and doesn't have to be compliant with any rules or regulations, whether it's the Federal Credit Reporting Act or the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission rules. So those are different. But when it comes to employers, I mean, you have to go about it a certain way to avoid being sued for discrimination or for violations of the FCRA or EOC rules.
So, and like, I get that you can get sued for so many silly things these days, and discrimination, while not silly, is such a problem, and it's hard to catch, and but sometimes it's kind of overanalyzed. Like, what should a good background check include that that might be a red flag for another? Because again, we have a lot of probably people that would be using your service just to get employed. So what would one of the red flags be for a non-legitimate background check?
Are you asking if like a red flag if you're an employer, or a red flag if you're a consumer or subject of background check?
The second one, if you are subject to a background check, like if they ask for your dog's first name and your social security number, like red flag.
Right. Right. I mean, it's like there are certain things, obviously, that that an employer is supposed to do. Again, like for instance, I mean, if you're gonna be doing those professional, well, let's go what a typical one usually is. A typical one usually starts with like a social trace. That's a social security trace that tells you or that tells the employer, like if you've used any AKAs, the different places that you reported as living at, you went to school, anything's on record that you have lived at, and then on top of that, then you go from there to the county criminal searches. That's where you go into the counties, at least the county seats, where every place that comes up, and do a criminal felony misdemeanor search. And then sometimes also that's supplemented by a nationwide database search. But the catch with that is that like those databases, they're not off the bat compliant. So if, like for instance, if something comes up, then you need to go and actually check that county where it says that record came from, because those databases can mismatch things, they can be out of date, and sometimes like if a case is dismissed or if a case is expunged, it's not supposed to be reported. And sometimes you'll find things like that in those databases. And then if there is any adverse action to be taken against you as an applicant, you're entitled to a notification and of the adverse or potential adverse action, so you have a chance to review those results, and you have a chance to dispute what may not be inaccurate, because that happens. I mean, mistakes happen at all levels. They can happen at courts. They can happen with the information retrievers. They can happen at many different stages. And then, of course, there is additional stuff that goes into a background check, depending on what you would be doing. If you're going to be driving seniors or kids around, then probably a driver motor vehicle records is also going to be checked. Depending on the position, a drug screening or a drug testing may be done. Depending on whether you're going into something medical or such, your credentials may be checked, your licenses may be checked to make sure that there's been no sanctions or actions against you, that you didn't commit any violations in a different state or such. And then there is reference checks, and then you've heard of fake degrees before, that you've heard of even executives with some of the bigger companies that got found out that they've kind of lied about their degrees or such. So it all depends. On what you're going to be doing, and that's going to determine usually the additional screenings that may happen. But it's never supposed to be too invasive, and it's always supposed to be commensurate with the responsibilities of the job. It's like, for instance, some companies or positions will require a credit report, but that shouldn't be done for every type of position. Like, for instance, if you're going to be working in a warehouse, you're going to be moving around furniture. I mean, it's not really relevant in most of the times that your credit report should be pulled. So that's why some of these FCRA rules and regulations and EOC things need to be observed, and most of them are in there for the protection of the of the consumer, so that employers don't just I guess
Yeah.
don't just have a field day.
Yeah, so they just start grabbing all the information they can because they can, which is nice. And we had a guest on last week that was talking about filing your taxes electronically and tips for small businesses and things like that. And he pretty much mirrored something that you just said, and that for you it should be every background check should come with a file sent to the employer and the exact same file or copy of that file sent to the person that the background check was conducted on, because you want everything in writing. You want it here in front of you, so that if there is a problem, if there is a mix-up, and just like you said, and this is what our guest last week said, especially when you're dealing with the state and these big complicated things, mistakes happen a lot. Mistakes aren't uncommon, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, mistakes can happen anywhere, so that's why you need those safeguards, and you need to look at everything. And that's why we monitor our credit reports, and that's why we do all of these different things. It's to look and watch out for any stuff that's not supposed to be there, that is not ours, or that is just erroneous altogether. So if you don't get a chance to review that, then you never get a chance to correct it.
Is this information correctable? I mean, I know, as I said, my only real experience is that when I was dating my wife before we got married, and she had a PI, a private investigator, who worked for the law firm for which she worked as well, do a background check on me. She wanted to make sure that I was okay, because I had asked her out on a date, and I thought it was actually quite commendable of her to do that. And I think he came up with a parking.
He did not pass. He had to pay a fine.
No, I didn't. Yes, they didn't find anything with me. But of course, he was a private investigator. Maybe he had his own access. I guess he had access to a company that he subscribed to, that he could do background checks. But so the average person, are background checks available to the average person? The general person, can I or somebody else do a background check, or I mean, what's available out there?
Well, Ben, you raise an important question there, because there's a difference between an investigative report and a background check, and so there is all these entities that work in this environment, and you have private investigators, and then they can tell you they can do all of these different things, and of course this is not something an employer in most cases can do. But obviously, personal relationships, and you can find out a lot of public information. There's a lot of public information out there, and depending on the jurisdiction, some jurisdictions are more, I guess, lax when it comes to that, and they put out a lot of those different things when it comes to criminal records and such. And some of them, they purge the personal information out of it, and then you have to officially make a request, like if you have a legitimate need for that, to make sure that you match the person to that record, especially if you have a common name. And so how do you know it's this person as opposed to that other person? But what's available is usually court records. Obviously, address histories, and you have a lot of these other things. And obviously, whatever you put out there yourself, whatever you post in different things and you make public, kind of in a way, then it is available. And if you if you happen to be in one of these lists that are required to be published, like certain offender lists that are a requirement in certain states that they are published. So it depends on the jurisdiction that will determine how much you can readily get available, and in some instances online, and in some instances by just walking into the courts in that jurisdiction and going through the records. And then you have these data aggregators who are selling the in a lot of instances, for instance, you can go into a sheriff's website, and they have arrest records, and they have incarceration records, and you have like most state penitentiaries, they put that stuff online as well. So whenever there's like incarcerations, and there's like a lot of federal records that are also public records. So the majority of that is the court stuff is usually public records, except for some jurisdictions where you have to go through some official channels to get it. But when you start getting into more personal stuff, not that to say that that's personal too, but it becomes public record. But you start getting into medical stuff, you start getting into drug screening stuff, motor vehicle record stuff. That shouldn't be just available to anyone without going through the proper channels and without you giving them your consent to go ahead and request that information. So the more sensitive the information is, the more typically it requires that kind of consent to come from you.
Well, I mean, but aren't there like there databases of sexual offenders and things like that?
Right.
That
But those are all public record.
That's all public. I mean, that you don't need the
Yes.
you don't need the permission of the sexual offender to go check that he's a sexual
Right.
offender.
Those are the ones that I was
Yeah.
referring to,
Right.
like as an example. When I said those like incarceration records, arrest records, sex offender lists. In a lot of instances, not only are they available, but they're in some states and some jurisdictions, they are required to actually publish them and publicize them, and actually have people subscribe, and they get notifications for when someone in their area is in one of those lists.
Mm.
And of course, a lot of those things came out of necessity, or came out of precedents that kind of made it a requirement. But as with most things, there is always two sides to it, and there is times when things like that do good, and there are times when they do harm. So
Yeah.
it's always something to keep in mind.
Okay, so I mentioned that there are different types of background checks. Do they fall into different categories specifically, or what do you mean by different types of background checks when you say that?
Well, what I mean is like the official background check, like for instance, for most private employers, is what I mentioned, like where it's like
Okay.
a criminal record, where it's those types of products. And then you have the investigative report. Sometimes government entities will do that. In addition to these products that we mentioned, they actually have individuals go and question the person. They go and interview the person. They go interview their relatives. They go do all of these extra steps. That's what turns it more into an investigative report, as opposed to just doing a background check, which is just searching and going through the public records and the information and doing like a drug screening or such. But the investigative one goes deeper, and it starts getting into the character, of the person. Like I said, talking to interviewing neighbors, coworkers, and things like that. It's just more invasive.
Okay. Now, we're also going to talk a little bit about ID theft, ID thieves. How are you involved with people who try to steal other people's identities?
Well, I mean, it's all of this data and information handling and everything. It all comes together. I mean, it's like my career spanned across different different professions. And for one, I'm a consumer. Before I'm a business person, so I've always had concerns about that myself. And then I used to investigate money laundering. I used to lead a team of anti-money laundering investigators.
Oh.
And then of course background checks. And and we see that in many different ways and forms. And obviously in the form of like some things that people do sometimes when they steal identities. They may steal money. They may impersonate the person, file taxes on their behalf. They may open accounts on their behalf, or they may commit crimes in their and their other names using fake IDs. And there's been instances where people have gone into hospitals and have gotten healthcare services and run up the bill, but they walked out, and then the victim, whose identity they've stolen and whose ID they presented, is left to clean up the mess. So I think it affects all of us in different ways.
Now, why is tax time such a busy time for ID thieves?
Well, it is a quick time for for the crooks to get a quick cash, basically, get a quick refund and move on before anybody catches on. And there is a lag between when the IRS issues the refunds and then when they actually get to cross-reference everything later, because the employer has to give you your W-2 by the end of January, but they have a couple more months before they can get the employer copy to the IRS, just as an example. But they know that if they can get there first, and they have nothing to lose if they have all your information, and they don't even have to have all the accurate documents, because they can craft other documents, because they don't have to. They usually, their assumption is that they won't have to answer for it or to anybody, so they can inflate everything, and just their goal is to get a check and move on, and then leave the victims to try and sort it out and clean up the mess.
Well, how large a problem is tax-related ID theft?
Well, according to the IRS, in 2013, they issued about 5.2 or 5.3 billion worth of tax fraud, fraud refunds, type of refunds, and also just to illustrate the trend, in 2008, the IRS identified 47,000 cases of tax refund fraud. But in 2012, it went up to over 641,000, cases. Just to give you an idea how much is the jump. But there are many. Every time the statistics come out of either the IRS or the FTC, the trend is still just going up. It's both identity theft and tax-related stuff, and account-related and account fraud as well.
The increase, do you think it's because people are filing more and more online, or they're trying to streamline the process and I guess making it less safe, or are people just not doing enough to protect their own identity?
Well, I mean, it's all you can do is just try and be a hard target as opposed to a soft target. But there is really no proof that online is worse than the traditional way of doing it, because I mean, what it boils down to is just the safety of the information. A lot of times they are able to get their hands on their information by just stealing the mail. So that's why I recommend to people that they make sure either way they do it, they have to go safe about it. If you're using mail, make sure your mail is secure. Both your incoming and your outgoing mail. And if you're doing it online, make sure that you're using strong passwords. You're not using non-secure networks. Make sure you're not falling victim to phishing scams over the phone as well. Or make sure, if you're out there, if you're using a tax preparer, make sure that you're using one that you know well, that has a good reputation and the right credentials, and not one that just set up to steal your information. And so it just depends on if you do it responsibly. Online can be safer because you have less of a likelihood that documents will be stolen from your mailbox. And so one has to be vigilant and always monitor. That's the best way to go about these things, and then just get ahead of it and be vigilant.
Now
that's probably really good advice, because I bet a lot of people out there, they don't think about taxes, I'm sure, until April 14th, and then they, quickly forget after April 16th. It's not something a lot of people want to keep an eye on, but I guess it's the more. And I know we're a technology show, but I kind of gather that the more you can kind of get out of your mailbox, that people can't just walk by, drive by, pick up your mail, dig through your trash, find your papers, and kind of keep them more secure online, you'll be a little bit better off.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it expedites the process, and then, like I said, if you do it safely, then it's less of a likelihood that you have documents with your personal information laying around, because a lot of people make that mistake. I mean, it's like you got to keep that information under lock and key or shredded if you're not using it, and also if you're talking about it, and if you're talking about it like in a waiting room or in a public space. Make sure you are discreet. Write it down or something, because once somebody hears it, then they have it. They have what they need. So people, as the adage goes, like a lot of common sense is not common practice. So we all need reminders every now and then to make sure that we don't become negligent, kind of in a way, with our personal information, because the risk is too high. If that falls in the wrong hands.
Yes. Well, listen, we're almost at the bottom of the hour here. We're coming up to our break, Rashid. And when we come back, I'd like to talk a little bit why this tax-related ID theft is of special concern for Floridians. I mean, what's so special about Florida? Okay.
The elevated median age.
And also. Is the IRS doing anything to prevent tax-related ID theft, from their side? Let's talk a little bit about that too as well, okay? All right.
Sure.
All right. You're listening to the Computer America Show on the Blog Talk Radio Network, on the Boost Radio Network, on the IRN Radio Network. Ben and I are talking to Rashid Zahidi. He is the CEO of Sentinel Background Checks. We're going to take a little break, and then we'll continue on here at the bottom of the first hour. IBM is going to be here in hour 2, talking about Identity Mixer, and what they're doing to prevent ID theft as well. We'll be right back at these commercial messages. This is the Computer America Show. We got a brand new news test bulletin from Marty Winston coming up. Stay with us.
Hey everyone, have you heard about the No hair removal device that's sweeping the globe? If you want to go weeks without shaving and get smooth, professional quality results, here's our favorite host, Cheryl, for No hair removal.
Thanks. Hey gals, I love talking about my No. It's this cute little hair removal system that you can take with you and use almost anywhere at home or on the road. No more expensive in-office treatments, painful waxing, and no more wasting your valuable time. Got unwanted facial hair? No has patented thermocon technology that works on all hair and skin colors, so it's perfect for using on all body parts. And now you can take advantage of this incredible risk-free trial. Get the No, the facial kit, a travel case, and a $100 discount shopping card, and you don't risk a penny to try it. Try the incredible No hair completely risk-free. Call 1-800-953-5415. That's 800-953-5415. 800-953-5415.
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they are available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com.
Well, look at you. This is Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America, this time the Antec P280 case. This new case in the Antec Performance 1 series, a happy silver anniversary to Antec, is from the Black Slab Design School, which we like, and boasts a lot of sound insulation, a lot of cooling provisions, a lot of drive base, and a lot of options for keeping cable runs tidy. This is their new model P280 Super Mid-Tower case that can handle motherboards up to XL-ATX. Offers 11 drive bays and 7 positions for 120-millimeter fans. 3 are populated and connected to high-low speed switches on the back of the case. It also sports 9 expansion slots. It has lots of open volume plus really nice tuck-away, poke-through, and tie-down cable routing for good airflow. Bottom line, the not oversized Antec Performance 1 P280 case has what it takes to build a big system without adding a big noise. This is Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. Here at 33 minutes past the hour, that was a brand new News Tips Bulletin Review from Marty Winston. And a computer case, nonetheless. It's certainly a rarity to hear about computer cases because less and less people are actually building computers, sadly. So nice to see that he's reviewing products that, might not get as much spotlight as they used to, but still important.
Yes, it is.
So welcome back to the Computer America Show. We have Rashid Zahidi here with us, and from Sentinel Background Checks, and we're just getting into tax identity theft and tax-related identity theft. And we kind of left off with a cliffhanger of why this is of special note to Floridians, because Florida is so much more than indecisive voters and meth labs. Like there's apparently now they have something to do with tax ID or tax ID theft.
Well.
Live too real for you, or
we have the sunshine. You forgot about that.
well, I mean, I grew up in Florida for 20 years. Craig's been there for what are you, 70 going on 80? So we certainly know Florida has its quirks, but why is identity theft in Florida such a concern? Is it really the elderly? Because Florida does have a rather large number of elderly who might be susceptible to this kind of thing.
Yeah, that is one of the possible reasons, Ben. It's the vulnerable. We have like a larger population of the elderly. We also have a large population of students as well, who are still learning about these different things and credit and handling credit and such. And they're always like targets for credit card companies anyways, with offers and this and that. And you have a large number of tourists that cycle through here. So those are some of the possible reasons that Florida comes up on top when it comes to that. There are others, of course, like California, Texas, New York, and Georgia, but Florida takes the cake.
Yeah, literally.
So is your company kind of based in Florida? Because it seems like you're speaking from experience.
813.
Yeah, we are in the Tampa Bay area, and so the capital of lightning.
Yeah.
And we had our first thunderstorm, I think, today.
Oh, that's not foreboding at all. Yeah, we grew up in South Florida, and it's like we've had family and friends who've come down from South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, that kind of thing, and it's you hear all these jokes about Florida has this, Florida has tourists, Florida has a lot of elderly, and that kind of thing. Go to a college town, nothing but college students, but it's true. And I guess every one of those demographics, or at least a lot of those demographics, are vulnerable due to lack of knowledge and preparation, or just the means to actually retaliate for this.
Right. Technology savvy, you got all these different things, inexperience, you name it. And like I mentioned earlier, if you're a crook, you're looking for soft targets. You don't want to work too hard. If there is, if there is what's perceived an easier target, I mean, obviously you're going to find it, and that's
Makes
kind of
sense. Yeah.
the logic. If there is,
Yeah, it makes complete sense. So, from a consumer side, you can keep track of your papers. You can kind of keep everything in lock and key. Make sure that you shred or burn or however you feel to dispose of important documents. Feed it to the dog, what have you. But on the other end, the IRS, they have to be doing something to, kind of be preventing tax ID theft, right?
well, I mean, obviously, it's a big concern, and it keeps going up, and the trend is, like I said, it's just a growing concern. But according to the IRS, they dedicate about 3,000 employees, like as a task force, to work on this, and to try and prevent, and to try and investigate, and to try and just kind of detect these types of things. And they're also saying they're providing training to over 35,000 employees in addition to the task force, and they're working with local law enforcement agencies, and they're increasing filters. And obviously, they have, like, if you're unfortunate to have been a victim of it, they now issue an additional PIN that they call the identity protection PIN, so that the next time they can do an additional check to make sure that it's you before they do anything or issue any refund or such. So there is that's some of the things that at least the IRS lists as they're doing.
Now,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead. You were on a roll
Yeah,
there.
no, it seems like they're doing a lot. I mean, at the end of the day, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with the inner workings of the IRS and tax returns and that kind of thing, but I'm guessing every one of these forms and applications and tax return forms, like, they're eventually seen by a person, right? They're not just scanned by computers and run through and kind of rubber stamped. Like, they can actually train people to kind of see, oh, here's 10,000 tax returns from one post office, and they all have the same handwriting, and it's awful. Like, there are filters that they can do, right?
Right. I mean, that's what they were talking about when I mean, you'd assume when they're talking about increasing filters, because I mean, unfortunately, like, the criminals always seem to be ahead and everyone else is catching up, and so you've got these systems that all these organizations do to try and speed up things, and at the same time they become vulnerabilities at certain times, and then they have to go back and plug the holes and correct the blind spots, just because I mean, there is obviously, like, there is a few things that just go through the systems, and I mentioned a little bit about that and you are correct. I'm not very familiar with the inner workings of the of the IRS, but I know that a lot of the big big corporations and big government agencies obviously are always trying to also use systems so they can work cheaper, and then they can do things I guess more efficiently. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does the opposite. But I mean, the systems have to be smarter, and the people have to be well trained in order for that to work. Because I mean, if one of them is weak, then they're going to find that weak link. Because I mean, you can have all the strongest systems in the world, but if the people are not trained correctly, then they are the point of vulnerability. And the other way around, if the people are great, but then your systems, the systems that you're using, have vulnerabilities, they're going to find them. So it's both. It's both the process, the procedures, the trainings, and we advocate for this when it comes to employers as well, because anybody who is handling people's personal information has to do the right safeguards. That starts with the due diligence to make sure that the people who are doing this, that you entrust with your information, are properly trained and are responsible, and then that the companies put the right safeguards when it comes to IT and when it comes to process and procedures, information security, continuity, business continuity, all of these different things. That everybody's got to do their part in order for it to work.
Well, let me ask you this. I guess I'm a little confused because you're the CEO of Sentinel Background Checks, and we're talking about all this ID theft. I mean, how does that tie into your, or do you have a different company, or are you just knowledgeable about this? I mean, what's the tie-in here, I guess?
Well, the tie-in is the book, really, because the book, when I wrote the book, I tried to address all of these different things that I'm seeing as a continued issue and problem for people, and this kind of comes up a lot, and it comes up a lot in like I said, in the crimes that are committed, and sometimes one of the concerns, obviously, like with what we do and making sure that we do it correctly, is that to point out to employers and to concerned parties that this information has to be handled responsibly, and that you have a responsibility, and these are some of the bad things that can happen if you don't do the right thing. And also to alert them to the fact that not always what you see on paper, you can't just take it for face value. You have to do some due diligence, and you have to do some verification, because you may make the wrong decision based on the wrong information, because someone has stolen an identity and they committed a crime, and actually the person who you're looking to hire is a victim as well. So if you're not aware of all these different things, then you may victimize that innocent person twice, and you may miss out on possibly hiring a great employee because you're not aware of all these different things that can happen.
Okay. So now the book, The Business Immunity System, the Pitfalls and Side Effects of Data Handling, Privacy Issues and Background Checks. Small title, but really, now the book has actually been out for how long?
It actually came out in February.
Okay.
The second half of February.
Okay, and what kind of response are you getting from the book?
Great response, and obviously, as you mentioned, I mean, because of this time of year, the majority, because there is a lot of stuff in the book. There is stuff about privacy. There's stuff about typical background checks and things like that, and all the different entities that kind of handle data, and the pitfalls that we've talked about, and then the Healthcare Portability Act, and then the handling of information when it comes to healthcare, and then identity theft, of course, and then we talk about hypocrisy, ethics, and criminal background checks, and then just the importance of doing the right thing, the ethical thing. But so the identity theft was one component of that, and because of the growing trend, and because of the time of the year, we've been getting most of the requests and questions and things like that about that particular topic more than the others. But I only attribute that to the time of the year, and it's the tax filing season, and all these reports that are issued now, and including one that the latest from the FTC that continues to confirm the trend that's a growing concern. But the book has much more, and the day-to-day is background checks, and then trying to help companies and help consumers as well. Just navigate this maze.
Yeah. No. As I'm saying, now unfortunately I haven't had a chance to read the book. But I will certainly have a chance to.
I believe we have one laying around here somewhere, though.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
And
I'll forward you guys a copy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, would you say the book is sort of like a manual of what to do to prevent this? Is that how you're writing it that way? With points and tips and things that you need to do. Is it sort of like an outline of
or are you trying to raise awareness of an issue?
Yeah, it's more of a guide, and it's more of kind of a little bit of advice, a little bit of storytelling, because sometimes, because there are manuals, there are many manuals out there, and I mean, and no disrespect to anybody or anything, but there are some just very boring manuals, and it's great if you're highly technical and if your job is to do background checks, and you wanna know how to exactly do this and do this and do that, but your average person is gonna get bored by that, and you have to show them a few real life examples of what may happen or what has happened, and then just alert them to some of the in layman's terms and in a non-boring way of some of the things that can happen, and the good and the bad, and and the ugly when it comes to this, and then just the need to do the right thing, and and then I give examples of like how some of the biggest companies still mess this up, and if you just look at the headlines, and many of them continue to get sued and get into trouble with this, and you'd think like they'd have all the right training, all the experts, all the right forms and such, and still they violate things, or they get into legal trouble unnecessarily.
Okay, well, again, now the book is how much? The book is what, $14.99? Yeah.
Well, it's actually like for a limited time, the Kindle one is like, I believe, at $2.99, but only for a limited time.
Okay. Oh, cool.
But the hard copy is somewhere in there, like 12 something or 13 or 14. But it is on Amazon, if you're asking.
Well, it looks like you've got some very good reviews here. A lot of the different and reviews from people who are obviously in the know. It looks like you've got some really good reviews here, and I'm tempted to. I will be.
Right. Some of those make me blush.
The same color as the cover of your book too. It's like a bright red. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, it's like you have to send a strong message, right? This is important stuff.
Well, is this?
I mean, in all seriousness, it's like the consequences can be grave. I mean, for consumers and for employers.
Is it an easy read, something you kind of sit back, or do you really have to concentrate or focus on what is? I mean, this is not light reading, is it? Or is it?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a little bit like kind of what you asked earlier, and that's why I said it's not one of those manuals, because I mean, I tried to make it as easy of a read as possible, and by the response, I mean, I've gotten from a lot of people, and is they were saying exactly that, because I mean, when you see something like that, and then go and buy some of the previously published books related to that, it's an easy read, and compared to a lot of them, like I said, it's a quick read, easy read, and just trying to get to the real important stuff and the meat of the because we don't all need to be experts in background checks. There are just certain things we need to know about that particular topic, and there are certain things we need to know. And I build on all my experiences, like I said, both as a consumer and both in banking, and then seeing the other side of the due diligence and monitoring of transactions, and KYC stuff, and then just different types of research, like to try and find things.
Well, listen, more and more people are doing their taxes online, okay? And I know you have some tips about what taxpayers should do to look to protect themselves, but more specifically, how can taxpayers protect themselves online? And is it any different than if they were just doing the regular filing their taxes normally?
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, if you can do, like I said, just do everything responsibly. Make sure like your computer is up to date. Make sure you're savvy, obviously, when it comes to that, and make sure that you can recognize the right URLs, the right websites, and that you don't click on the wrong things, that you don't fall victim to the phishing emails, and then make sure you monitor your stuff, and then also that ties into what you put out there, your footprint, your digital footprint. Everything you put out there, that that you don't want people that normally otherwise should be safeguarded brings like a fraudster or a crook closer to stealing your identity. Like, let me give you an example. For
Okay.
instance, a lot of people don't think like, okay, of those additional pieces of information, like your mother's maiden name, like where you were born, like all of these different things. They're all different pieces of the puzzle. So, for instance, like if someone has already, you've heard of the social engineering and all of these different things,
Sure.
where they get one piece and then it allows them to get the next one, and then they build on that, and then they get the next one. But if they have all this information about you, including your your date of birth, your place of birth, all these clues that and keywords that you may, or answers that you may use, for instance, as an example, in authentication questions. You know how your bank will put that authentication questions, or in an official entity, to just as an extra safety check to make sure that it's you logging in or such. But if you put all of that out there and it's easily found, then that allows that person to answer all those questions easily, and therefore bypass that extra, that extra safeguard, or that extra level of safety, and steal your identity, or or get into your account, or do whatever they want. So it's just being vigilant, and I mean, obviously we don't want to be paranoid,
Yeah, well,
but we just want to take the right steps and
well,
make sure that we do it
little
responsibly.
paranoia today is not a bad thing, I mean, given
Healthy paranoia.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let me now. What should taxpayers look when they're choosing a preparer? I mean, we got the H&R blocks, and you have all those people out there, that type of thing. I mean, is that good for most of the people, or should we be a little bit more discerning or discriminating about who we're choosing to prepare our taxes? Should we go to an accountant? I mean, what's necessary?
Well, I mean, it all depends on on what you have access to. Obviously, like, okay, personally, I mean, it's like I have a CPA that I've been working with for years, so I know them very well. I know about their credentials. I know their level of expertise and all of those. But I mean, I say to people when they ask me that question is that, like, if it's not someone you've been working with for years and you're very familiar with, their credentials, then make sure that maybe you can go to the IRS has a database or a directory of ones that are vetted for and that are verified. And of course, you can usually tell that there are places where you can check the credentials, depending, because obviously you can use an accountant, or you can use a CPA, or you can use some of those big corporate names that you've mentioned. But what you don't want to do is just go out there and then just see someone put up a sign and you go start giving them your personal information. That's what you don't want to do.
No.
But if you're not sure who to use or what, a good start is like to go to the IRS's directory.
Okay, I mean, that's sort of and the IRS. I guess it all depends on who you are. I mean, how complex your return is going to be. I mean, if things are really simple, I guess you can go to an H&R block.
Yeah.
And
right. We're assuming that you're looking for one of these to do them for you, because obviously there is the way yourself as well, and that's why we said that you just have to do it responsibly, because obviously now, and I'm independent. It's like most banks or credit unions, they have some kind of deal usually around this time with one of these softwares that you can basically use, and you just answer the questions, and it makes it easier to file your taxes if they're simple. If they're simple enough, if you don't have all of the multi-corporations and you got all these different things coming and going. So that's why we're talking a lot about accountants and CPAs and those service providers. But of course, you can do it. You can do it yourself. I mean, and you can do it directly with the IRS if you want to use the old-fashioned forms too. There are options.
All right. Well, the book is The Business Immunity System by Rashid Zahidi, and again, Zahidi. Excuse me, Rashid Zahidi. And you can see it again. It's at Amazon.com. Or what you can do is you can go to our website at ComputerAmerica.com, and go to today's show, which is April the 6th, Monday, April the 6th, and we have the link right there to Sentinel background checks, and you can check out everything that Rashid is doing right there on our show notes page at computeramerica.com. Again, the book is sells for $14.99 for limited time. The Kindle price is $2.99. But that's for a limited time. It's got some great editorial reviews. It's got a whole bunch of editorial reviews that are really nice. People who have read it are very, very I see you have a lot of 5-star people. I mean, people who've given your book 5 stars. So this is obviously a good book to read, and you should check it out. Now, again, my apologies. Until shortly, I didn't realize that you were an author. I knew that you were the CEO of Sentinel Background Checks, and I just recently found out, so I didn't have a chance to read the book. But I will make it I will make it my business to do so. And yeah, exactly. And again, I really want to thank you for being here on the show with us tonight. It was very enlightening, and again, I encourage all of you to check out his book. Check out the book. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Craig and Ben.
Yeah.
And I'll just say to everybody, just remember, if we show some discipline, we won't have to show regret.
There you go.
Very nicely said for Personal Finance Month.
Yes, exactly. Rashid, thank you so much for being with us here on Computer America tonight. You have a good week, okay?
You too, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, there he goes. All right, so that is very interesting, and check out the book coming up. I just realized this is the last week for our Computer America contest, right? It ends
this Friday.
This Friday, yeah, our Logitech contest. You have just till this Friday. It ends on April the 10th, and then over the weekend we'll draw 3 winning names, and on Monday, April the 13th, we'll announce the 3 winning names, and then probably start the contest again. Third place prize, Logitech HD Webcam C310. Second place prize, the Logitech G400S Optical Gaming Mouse. And the grand prize, the Logitech X200 Mobile Wireless Stereo Speaker, valued at $70. The entry form is right on the page. Just go to our Interact menu and just select Enter the Contest, and you can enter that. And also, while you're there, enter the Show Reminder Winner Contest, too. Every Friday, we give away a Logitech P650 Glass Wireless Touchpad, valued at $80. So enter that as well. It's all private. It's all free. And you'll be glad that you entered them, and you might want something really, really nice. Okay, coming up in hour 2 is IBM Research is here with us. Dr. Jan Kamanish is here, a cryptographer at IBM Research. We're going to be talking about Identity Mixer. We'll be right back with him. Stay with us.
Broadcasting live, it's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into hour 2 of the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
Again, thanks to our first hour guest, Rashid Zahidi, CEO of Sentinel Background Checks, talking about his book, available at Amazon, The Business Immunity System, The Pitfalls and Side Effects of Data Handling, Privacy Issues, and Background Checks. Check it out at Amazon. We have a link again at computeramerica.com on our show notes page. So we just had Easter. Did you see the Easter Bunny, by the way? Were you visited by the Easter Bunny?
No, but I was out in the front yard and I did see rabbits. So
yeah,
I'm going to count it. No eggs, but rabbit eggs are very hard to find. That's why you get candy from them.
Well, we have our Easter Bunny here.
What's up, Doc?
That's him. Okay. So.
It's sad. I don't think a lot of the younger generation will understand that reference.
You think it's gotten to the point where they don't know who Bugs Bunny is anymore? Really? Wow.
They've had a few unsuccessful reboots of the whole universe, because you can't just be playing the same cartoons from the 50s and 60s. You got to create new stuff to get the kids' attention. and they've tried unsuccessfully a couple times, but I think it's fading.
You think the Cartoon Network just killed it with all their new stuff that you watch, or that's just Adult Swim?
Well, no. I'm talking about kids cartoons, and they've had like new Warner Brothers, cartoons with Bugs Bunny, with Daffy Duck, with Porky Pig, with Marvin the Martian. With all of them, it's just they haven't been as successful as some of the other things. Like, not everything is going to be perfect for every generation. When it's 50, 60 years old, even cartoons are going to start showing their age, and it's what can they relate to, and there are just some cartoons that are more relatable.
So if you go to a kid today and you go, what's up, Doc? He'll look at you like you're crazy. He won't get the reference.
Some kids, yes. It's not like 100% like it used to be.
Okay. All right, got it. Ah, well, time marches on. It's so sad, man.
You're almost you didn't say it right. You're supposed to be shaking your fist saying those darn kids. Like I hear it in your voice.
It's so sad. Oh, they don't know what they're missing. How about the Roadrunner? At least that Wile E. Coyote. You think?
Everyone from Warner Brothers, they've tried to reboot, and it's just hasn't stuck yet.
It's sad. Oh well. Needless to say, we need to move on with other things tonight. Interesting topics. If you're just joining us, welcome to Hour 2 of the show. Again, if you have a comment, question, or to any of our guests, 347-884-8881 will get you on and get you through. Okay, well, I'm interested to talk to our next guest. We all use electronic services more and more in our daily lives, except maybe for the octogenarians with their checkbooks and the express lines at supermarkets. But for the most part, we are using electronic services. And to do so, we have no choice but to provide plenty of personal information for authorization, billing purposes, or as a part of the terms and conditions of service providers. I mean, if you don't agree with it, guess what? You don't get the service, so you have to agree, Now, dispersing all these personal information erodes our privacy, according to our guests, and puts us at risk of abuse of this information by criminals. Now, to the rescue is Identity Mixer, and this allows users to minimize the personal data they have to reveal in such transactions. Okay. Now, here to explain how all this works is Dr. Jan Kamanish. He is a cryptographer at IBM Research. Jan, welcome into Computer America. How are you?
Good evening. I'm very good. And you?
We're doing fine.
Doing pretty good. Thank you for joining us so early in the morning.
Yes, are you in Zurich?
I'm in Zurich. It's 5 o'clock in the morning here. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for being with us here, and I'm sure
You're most welcome.
Our listeners appreciate it. So we're here to talk about Identity Mixer. And by the way, we have this up on the website. We have it. There's research.ibm.com, but we also have a direct link to the Identity Mixer site itself. But why don't you, in simple terms, why don't you explain to our listeners how exactly does Identity Mixer, work and what it is?
Sure. So, as you mentioned, it's like a method to do better, like online authentication without all the identification that is currently happening. So let me give you an example. So if you say you would go to a bar, like translated, and the bartender would ask you for.
We don't go to bars here. Okay.
Right, but just as an example, where today you do some authentication and how that would work, like in a translated sense. So the idea would be if you would go to a bar and the bartender asks you for whether you're like old enough to have to drink, whether you're 21, and then typically show them your let's say driver's license. And then, of course, now if you do that in the physical world, look at your driver's licenses, all your name, your address, and your birth date, and then check whether you're old enough or not. And now, of course, if you do that electronically, that's one way to do how it's done today. They also store all this information. I mean, the bartender forgets it, so it's fine. But electronically, you have to do this differently, and so that's actually what we do. We sort of do that, but in such a way that the bartender just gets to know that you're older than 21. So just that statement. So it's as if you have like an electronic driver's license, but then when going to the bartender, you would sort of cover up all the fields like cryptographically, such that he only sees that you're old enough to have the beer. So in a translated way, that's how it works.
Okay. All right. So I mean, are you saying that when I present physically a driver's license, you know, the bartender is usually good at spotting fake IDs, that type of thing, and they can usually tell if it's the real thing. I mean, driver's license today are fairly complex little documents, and they're hard to. You just can't take your picture and paste it over something that you made up. They look very real and they look very official.
They're smarter than that nowadays.
Yes, they are smarter than that. So I guess what I'm asking you is does this identity mixer, does this apply to smartphones? I mean, there's so many things that we're using today to identify who we are other than paper documents or plastic documents. We're using our smartphones to identify ourselves and barcodes on these phones. Is identity mixer interacting with the electronic versions of identity as opposed to the paper ones?
Exactly. It's like an electronic identity system, and so you can run it on smartphones. So you would get some from identity providers. You would get electronic identities. You can store them on your smartphone or on your computers, and then when you need to authenticate online, then you just use them. And so the security here comes from cryptographic algorithms that make sure that you cannot forge those documents. It's all safe and secure. And then, as I said, when you go somewhere online to authenticate, let's say it's maybe an online gaming site or gambling site, and where you need to prove your age, for instance, and then the identity mixer system just makes sure that that website just learns that you're in the required age range, but nothing else.
Okay. Well, you know, what's that famous?
Well, they have those surveys that I assume everyone is completely honest with. You know, are you 18 years of age? Put in your birthday. You know, like that's not enough security for some sites.
He's being facetious. Yeah.
Well, it depends on the site, right? If it's like online gambling and you get some money back, so maybe there needs to be some kind of higher security form, or like another example could be like an health insurance portals. So here in Switzerland, when we have health insurance, we get like a better deal if we, before going to the doctor, call in and ask them or tell them our symptoms, and then depending on what the symptoms are, they allow you to go and see a doctor or not. And of course, you could do the same online, but again, you want to sort of your privacy, your data protected, and you don't want like your health insurance to store all the data about your symptoms. And so this system would just allow you to prove that you do have health insurance with them, and then later on, if they allow you to go to the doctor, you could even prove that they gave you permission to go to the doctor without ever revealing your full identity data. It's like another use case that could be done.
Well, you know, what was the famous the line from Iron Man 3 when Tony Stark says, you know, it's not the 80s anymore. Nobody says hacked. But, you know, I guess the question is, can identity mixer be hacked?
So no, but, I mean, it's all using provable secure cryptographic algorithms, and so essentially what you do is you prove that if you hack the system, then you would break some hard number theoretic problem. And actually, for those number theoretic problems, you sort of use parameters such that it would, like today's computer, it would use as much power to solve that hard problem as it would take to boil the entire ocean, so which is of course completely out of question, and so therefore the systems can be done such that they cannot be hacked.
Okay. Well, we're talking. I mean, how do we identify ourselves today? I mean, we're using our smartphones. I mean, what methods? I mean, Apple now has this Apple Pay, where you use your fingerprint and the RFD, near field communication, NFC, to make payments and everything. It's getting to be where we're seeing less and less paper money being used, but I don't think it's ever going to go away. I mean, do you think paper money is going to go away? Do you think we're going to still have use for that? Just out of curiosity, Jan.
Well, maybe for all the beggars on the street, maybe they need paper money, or sometimes we just want to have paper money to get some privacy. But exactly that's sort of what an anti-mixer makes sure. I mean, you can do electronic transactions with actually the same quality as paper money, because wherever you use paper money, okay, they cannot identify you, they cannot track you. And that's exactly what an anti-mixer does for you. It's like paper money.
Well, I mean, you can use your smartphone to pay parking meters now. I've seen them. With that you can pay a parking meter now. I mean, I used to need spare change for the parking meter, but now you can use your smartphone for that. Vending machines. We're seeing more and more vending machines now. You can just walk up, tap it with your smartphone, and buy a Coke. I mean, we're seeing the little things in life that we used cash for are themselves being converted into electronic
Apple Pay and all these quick paying methods.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess the point is that the methods that are used today, they all allow the service providers to track you. They know exactly, okay, so you've parked there, and you have used that stuff there, and you've bought some chocolate bar over there, or then you logged into that website, and so there's a lot of personal data that's flying around there, and I mean, as we have seen in recent past, it's very. I mean, the data is not very well protected. Quite often, it gets lost. It gets in the wrong hands, and so. That's like a privacy risk on the one hand, but it's a security risk, because that data could be misused. I mean, if somebody learns that you're on vacation somewhere, then they immediately can deduce from that maybe your home could be burglared, stuff like that, or like stolen identities. There's a big market for stolen identities, a black market that works very well, and so we need to protect our personal data online much better, and of course the best way to protect it is not to reveal it in the first place in like authentication, when we do authentication or any other transactions, and so that's where Identity Mixer kicks in, so that you can do this all what you want to do online, but keeping your data safe.
So you've come up with this Identity Mixer, and you've been working on it for 10 years? I believe.
More than that, even. Yeah.
Okay.
So a long time.
So again, now we're saying Identity Mixer allows users to minimize the personal data they have to reveal in these transactions that you're talking. How do you minimize it? Can you give us an actual practical example of how this would work?
So, for instance, the healthcare portal I was mentioning before, or let's take another example from a pilot that we used in one of our projects, like in a school in Sweden. So there we ran a pilot, and the students were giving student ID cards. Actually, there they were given actual smart cards, so they could use the smart cards at school, but also at home with their computers. And one thing we did there was like a psychological counseling service, like an online service. And then with their cards and their card readers at home, students could go online and use the counseling service, but then they would of course have to prove that they are a student of the school, And if they would do that like with the traditional things, they would have to log in with username and password, their student name and stuff. And of course, then that would reveal their identities. But with Identity Mixer, they could just prove to the counseling service that they are like a student of that school, and then they would get to interact with a real person, get some counseling, and but without revealing who they are, and therefore getting like the service that they are entitled to get to on the one hand, and on the other hand, of course, the service or the counseling person is sure that they're only doing this for the students of that particular school, but not for the whole country or something like that.
Okay. So what is it? What is it that the people actually? Is it something that they're holding? Is it an app that they have on their smartphone? I mean, I'm understood using the sophisticated algorithm, but where does it reside? Is it in the app on a smartphone? I mean, how do you implement it?
So we're actually working on an app on a for smartphones. I mean, right now it runs on like normal computers, like web browsers and stuff. But we're actually implementing an app such that it's like an electronic wallet, just like the app version of your normal wallet where you store in your plastic cards. You would have like an app on your mobile phone, and you would see all the identities from the identity providers that you're having, maybe your credit card, maybe your birth certificate, maybe your driver's license, all of that, like as Identity Mixer certificates, cards if you want, in your app. And then whenever you go somewhere, you just like you would open up your app instead of opening up your wallet and select which cards you want to use for the authentication, and then you would just do the authentication, but again only revealing that information that you're ready to part with, or just like that you're old enough for that service.
Okay. And now, is this available now, or is it still in development?
So it's available now on GitHub. So that's like the open source repository or the code repository, and so people can download it from there. It's available for demonstration purposes on our website, so you can check it out there. Mm-hmm. And it will be available on the IBM Bluemix service, the IBM Bluemix cloud, by the end of this month, and so people can use it to do their own development, to their own applications, and check it out.
So, in other words, it's going to be in the algorithm and things that Identity Mixer is going to be available. You have like an SDK for developers to use it?
Exactly. So, okay. I mean, the code on GitHub is just all there. The APIs are described. You can just download it and use it. Mm-hmm. And the IBM Bluemix service is a bit more comfortable because it's really like an SDK. It's just like a simple copy-paste some code into your website, and then you should be up and running already. So it's pretty simple from that point of view.
What is the cost of the SDK? I mean, how much do you charge to use Identity Mixer?
So for now, it's for free. It's like an experimental service right now, and you just can go and use it on Bluemix. If you download it from GitHub, of course, it's entirely for free. So there's no charge there.
Okay. Not available on Apple's iTunes yet?
We're working on that as well, so maybe by the end of the year we have the phone app downloadable from there as well.
Well, what if you've been working? I asked you if you've been working on this for 10 years. You said even longer. You had the sigh in your voice. You've been working on this for a long time. So why do you think it's taking so long for this to get adopted?
Well, sometimes it's hard to say, but I guess like security technology traditionally it has been very hard. I mean, because when people develop applications, they think of security like the last thing, and it just works. And security is something you don't quite see. But in the last couple of years, I have seen this changing. People start to worry about security, start to worry about protecting their privacy online, and so I think it has been like a increasing like a trend that these things should be used, and so I think it's changing now. I mean, the first internet transactions that haven't used like SSL or TLS, and then now that actually has picked up quite a bit. Otherwise, internet commerce wouldn't be possible today, I guess. And we see like identity mixers, like the user side authentication, so like TLS and the SSL is like the server side of authentication. So we believe that without identity mixer, we won't have transactions, whatever, in 10 years anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that was the surprising thing about me. For me, saying you've been working on this for 10 years is the technology that everyone uses and the technology that of what you're trying to do. I mean, that has to have changed multiple times over. Like, throughout these 10 years, you must be like 4 years into working with, this one, this one project, and then everyone switches over. Debit cards come into play, credit cards, paying apps, like, and even websites have different ways to authenticate nowadays. I mean, technology has to be keeping you extremely, busy.
Well, but if you think about like the underlying stuff hasn't changed. I mean, in TLS, SSL, when the algorithms there were used were invented like in the 80s, 90s. So the underlying algorithms they're pretty old for web standards, if you want, but I mean, the cryptography doesn't change. Principles there don't change that quickly. I mean, we of course we do like new research to improve stuff, but so that those principles are the same. It's just like they're used in different ways, and I guess that's also how we adopted that. And actually, the cloud technology here has helped a great deal in making the technology easier to use and in getting it out to people. And so that's actually exactly what we're doing right now.
Okay, so, well, I guess my question is that you've been doing this for a while. Was there a particular motivation for inventing identity mixer? I mean, were you yourself a victim of identity theft? Or you knew somebody close to you? I mean, what was your motivation to do this?
Well, in some sense, it goes back to like my very early 20s when I was collecting signatures for a referendum. So here in Switzerland, when you want to bring stuff up for a vote, I mean, you can collect the signatures from people, and then if you got enough, like 200,000 signatures, and then you deposit them with the government, and then that comes up for a vote. And so I grew up in a very small town up in the mountains, and then I went to my grandmother and I asked her whether she would sign this. And then she looked at it and she said, sure, that's a good thing. Sure, I'll sign it. And then she asked me, okay, so what happens now with my signature? What's the process? And then I told her, look, so then the administration in our little village, they're going to check that you're eligible to vote, because I mean, you have to be Swiss in order to be able to participate here. And the minute I was saying that it gets checked by the people, the administrative people in the village, I mean, it's a small little village, and then everybody speaks about everything. And the minute I was mentioning it, she said, okay, no, in this case, I'm not signing. And so for me, that was like a realization, okay, because she didn't have enough privacy here, enough protection, she didn't want to execute her rights. And well, that was before I started. Then I started electrical engineering in cryptography, and somehow this came back. So I guess this sunk in as it's very important to sort of protect your data in the little villages. But somehow the internet is now the little village, and we need to protect our data to help people actually execute the rights and secure the way we are living.
All right. Listen, I got to ask you this, because obviously you're a cryptographer at IBM Research. You obviously know a lot about cryptography. You have your PhD. I mean, you're doing all this stuff, and I want to get back to identity mixer, but I want to take a side thing that I wanted to ask you, is that because I've said this many times in the past, and I've read articles about it, and we're on the threshold now, and I know that quantum computing is here in many ways, in some capacity, and my understanding is that codes and cryptography that are based on quantum algorithms will be, because there's always when you do something, it's something that you can crack and they can break it, but supposedly quantum is going to make it such that it truly will be uncrackable, because by the very fact that you're looking at it itself affects it and changes it. I'm kind of curious. I mean, have you gotten into any of the quantum cryptography in your work?
Not in my work. We have some people in the lab who are working on that, and there's actually two things. One thing is like the quantum computers, which are like people are trying to build them in the labs, and it's
right.
I mean, some people say we have them in 5 years, or some people say we'll never have them. So we don't quite know. But then quantum crypto is like another thing. I mean, it uses like quantum effects to secure communication, and so some of that stuff already exists. I mean, there's some companies in Switzerland who do quantum communication over. So it sort of uses light particles to communicate, and then when you measure them, so that's how it works. And that stuff indeed is like uncrackable.
It is uncrackable. Because supposedly they say, if you have 100 supercomputers working on it, it'll take 1 billion years, but that using conventional cryptography. But they're saying the quantum technology will be in itself uncrackable, because the very fact that you look at it changes it, and that observation makes it impossible to break.
Although it seems like the field of quantum mechanics seems to be changing all the time. I'm hearing new theories left and right. So who knows if even that is really correct.
Well, who knows? But as far as today, it's really secure. Of course, I mean the drawback is it's like what we call symmetric crypto. So it only works if you have like shared keys. If you and I we have met before somehow and established like some common secret, and sort of without that it doesn't work. So it doesn't scale very well. So because you have to agree on those keys. But there's also like public key crypto, where actually we don't have to do that, where we can just publish a public key and we keep secret our secret key, and so that's much easier to use. And but there's also there exists also algorithms that are secure against quantum computers for that. But I mean those algorithms again are based on like a number of theoretic problems, just as anti-mixer is.
Oh, yeah, and we're going to take a little break here, and we'll continue on. We'll be right back with you. This is the Computer America Show. We're talking to Jan Kamanish, a cryptographer at IBM Research. We'll be right back. Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission is to protect and enhance the lives of companion animals and the people who love them. Their no-kill rescue shelter is open year-round, making it easy for people to adopt their best new friend. This year, Brother Wolf will find homes for over 2,400 orphan dogs, puppies, cats, and kittens. All have ended up as an orphan through no fault of their own. Brother Wolf has created a safe, nurturing environment where these special animals can heal emotionally and physically until they find a lifelong home. Their life-saving transport program brings dogs and puppies from overcrowded shelters in the south to rescues in the north where homes are easier to find. Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is a 501c3 organization. To learn more about their life-saving work and to make a donation, visit their website at www.bwar.org. That's www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they're available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com.
I've been waiting. This is Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, Barricade, and it better spell it B-E-A-R, like roar, bear, A-C-A-D-E. Our cleverness counter started clicking when we saw Barricade, a mostly plastic way to very deliberately jam a door shut when circumstances require that. Imagine the letter A split down its vertical center, then spread apart to create a trough. That's essentially the cross-section that slides under the open end of a door. You prep the inside with a slide stopper on the base of the door and a hole in the floor. When you need the door to be immune from opening, a thick metal pin goes through a raised, rigid assembly in the base and into the floor. It essentially bolts the door to the floor. This was designed for schools and government buildings or other places like broadcast stations that occasionally get threats. The company even showed pictures of bullet hits causing only cosmetic damage with no reduction in functionality. Bottom line, the clever little Barricade shuts the door on unwanted intrusions. This is Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. There's Marty Winston yet again, but this time with something a little bit more low tech. But I've heard about these things, and apparently there's a lot of ways to lock a door without actually having to install an entire lock on your door. So,
yep,
pretty cool stuff. But no, we're talking to Jan Kamenisch here, and he is a cryptographer with IBM Research. And real quick, we're kind of going off the beaten path, that kind of thing. But everyone has heard of IBM. They're a cornerstone of technology. But the IBM Research Lab, what is the purpose of the research lab? Where I guess identity mixer is also found. Do you work with other parts of IBM? Do you guys just sit around and say, hey, let's come up with something different, something new? What is the purpose of the research arm of IBM?
So, we do work. We actually do both things. We do work with other parts of IBM to sort of figure out what their problems are, how we can solve them. We tell them about cool research that we have done, where we have new products that they could be building. Then we work with clients sometimes directly, looking at their problems. Then we work with other European research partners in collaborative research projects. So it's like a think tank. We're trying to come up with new cool stuff, solve the problems of the world, and somehow try to figure out with the rest of IBM how we can make money out of that in the very end.
So when somebody comes to you and says, hey, what do you do for a living? He says, I work for a think tank at IBM. That's impressive.
Well, and it's a lot of fun too. I mean, you get to sort of think about new cool stuff and figure out how to solve it, and yeah, it's fun.
It is, yeah, exactly. And you're in Zurich, which is a fun place to be. So
indeed,
yes. So let me ask you a little bit about Identity Mixer. There are a lot of skeptics out there, and they're going to say, oh, how do we know that there isn't some sort of code, in your algorithm that doesn't that you planted back doors so somebody can get in, without my knowing it? What do you say to them?
Well, all the algorithms are public. I mean, all the code is out there, so you can take a look and compile it yourself, and then install it yourself, and then see whether it works. And also all the algorithms, everything we're using is published. We have at the crypto conferences, and so it has been vetted by our colleagues, reviewed, and so it's all good. You can check it out for yourself, and there you go.
But they might use the algorithms and everything, but they might, in their application, in that SDK, some programmer could slip a backdoor into it, couldn't they? I mean, that would step around it.
No, because it's using cryptography, and if you sort of install the code yourself on your computer, and then that code you can inspect, and then and that code will just make sure that you only reveal whatever you want to reveal, and then the server can of course do whatever they want, but because the crypto ensures that you cannot get out more than what you revealed, there's no way that the service provider end can do anything there.
Okay. Now I know you mentioned earlier about a school and everything. Are these or examples of, or do you have any pilot projects that actually uses Identity Mixer?
So we did 2 pilot projects. We just finished them earlier this year, and we were doing another 2 pilot projects currently. So of the ones we finished were the Swedish. Sorry.
Did you say PayPal? I didn't hear. Was it PayPal?
No, it was so one is in a university in Greece where we did one pilot.
Okay.
So I guess I was saying pilot, not PayPal.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so in that school, people were taking courses and evaluating the courses anonymously online, but still proving that they did take the course. And currently we're running a pilot in Australia with a biosecurity lab there, where in Australia when they have a new disease spreading in part of their country, they're gathering experts from all over the country to figure out whether it's serious or not, or whatever they do, I don't know. But then they also have to authenticate there, and so far they flew them all into a single high security lab. But now they want to do some of the analysis also via the internet, so it's cheaper. But then they need to have secure authentication mechanisms there. But they want sort of personal data be protected. So because of I guess bribery and stuff like that, so that when the experts come together, they just know, okay, so here's the expert from that field, and there's another expert from that field, and together they can figure out whether what to do. And finally, we do a pilot in Germany with the German Red Cross. So this is for assisted living at home or caregiving at home, where the Red Cross sort of orchestrates that whole thing. They hire different subcontractors, different companies who do all of that. And again, these people all need to be authorized, but for security reasons, they shouldn't always be identified. So you need to have again a system like Identity Mixer that may make sure that only the authorized people can do that, but with their data being protected.
Okay. So and you mentioned you asked the question. Okay, can it be used on smartphones?
Right. So we're working on applications on apps for smartphones, so such that it can you can store your certificates and your electronic identity cards on your smartphone. So it will be working on smartphones very soon as well.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, Jan, I know that it's very early in the morning, and I don't know if you can go back to bed or something, but I want Ben and I want to thank you for being here with us tonight, telling us about Identity Mixer. And again, if you want to see more about this, you can go to our website at computeramerica.com, click on the show notes button, and in the second hour you will see a link that goes to the Identity Mixer website where you can see how it works and try it out for yourself. You'll see an active demo. and I suggest that you you give it a shot and see what it's all about. Jan, again, thank you so much for being with us here tonight on the Computer America Show. I really appreciate you getting up early to tell our listeners about what it is that you do.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, you take care. Have a good day. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
All right, bye-bye. Boy, he sounded tired. Ben.
No, admittedly, the time isn't the best for everyone.
No.
And we're currently working on how to record shows ahead of time and then play them later. We try to err not to do that because we enjoy being live and answering callers and questions and things like that. But I mean, that might have been one of the special cases we should have considered actually pre-recording the show.
Well, and now that we have that ability, we've proven it with it. Intel was one of the first people that we did it with. We will have more and more opportunities to actually pre-record some of the interviews.
Because what he was talking about was, literally cutting edge. He works for the research arm of IBM. Like that's an important station, and the identity mixer, it's something that will probably come into your life, and maybe not under the same name, but the same kind of technology will in the next couple of years be showing up around the world. So I'm glad he was on to talk about it. I'm glad he was able to wake up. I know I would have had way more problems than he did, but I thought it was very cool.
There you go. All right. Well, terrific. All right. Well, we find ourselves with about 15 minutes left of time, and I understand you have some news stories. You can send me a link or two, and we can actually do some computer news. All right?
Sure.
All right. Let's do it. Tonight's Computer and Technology News is brought to you by Slimware Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America. You can visit them at slimwareutilities.com to clean, speed up, and optimize your Windows system for free. slimwareutilities.com. Check them out. What do we got, Ben?
All right. So, this first one is this one's a bit of a thinker. So I thought it was interesting just for the ramifications this kind of calls into question. That being this one from Popular Science, Kelsey D. Atherton.
Okay.
Is the author of this one, and she wrote a nice little article about how there are police drones in India that are armed with pepper spray.
Really?
Pepper spray for drones that they can then use for ride control, crowd control, that kind of thing. They said that the police drones have a range of about 3,000 feet and fly at about 2,000 feet up in the air, and I'm sure they will be lowered over a crowd, and they will then start doing strafing runs of pepper spray. And so and they've just started coming out with them. This was in Lucknow is the name of the city, and it's the same kind of technology. They're called octo-redders that were used in South Africa against protesting miners, and apparently it's one of their favorite ways of dispersing a crowd is to no longer send in the armed forces with the riot shields and the actually putting human lives at risk. They're equipping drones with pepper spray.
Really?
So I wanted your take on it, Craig. Like how, because I'll be honest with you, when I first read the article, or at least when I first read the headline, I was kind of like, oh, that makes sense, whatever. But then I was kind of shocked by myself. I was like, but wait, that's using drones in policing your own citizens. Like that is the drone state we've been talking about and fearing about here in America, where you don't want drones monitoring your speeds at all times of the hour. You don't want drones tracking you at all hours of the day. And least of all, you don't want any drones to be taking any kind of physical action against you. But I read the title, and then I saw what they were doing, and my first thought wasn't, my God, how can they be doing this to their own citizens? Why are they, equipping drones with pepper spray? They're already they're already dangerous enough without them. They can cause serious harm. But yeah, and so I was kind of shocked at how not shocked I was.
Better pepper spray than live ammunition being shot. I mean.
Yeah, I guess the other option was the Patriot missile, but still.
How about the drones that were dropping nets? I mean, they were dropping nets on other drones, but they could drop nets on people. It's harmless.
That was from South Korea and North Korea. That was drone-on-drone warfare.
Yes. This
is drone on people, which I think was the scary part of this article.
Yeah, but you can still drop a net on them. Yeah.
This isn't a Scooby-Doo thing. I promise you. If you drop a net on me, I'll get out of it in seconds. Like this isn't Scooby-Doo where you kind of just drop a net on the bad guy and he just stands there. He's like, oh, I can't get it off.
Yeah.
They're clearly equipping them with pepper spray.
Yeah.
So, do you think it's too far? India's one thing, but the fact that they can do it and they're doing it to some extent means that America could do it.
Maybe for crowd control. You have crowds and you don't want to fire a live ammunition to a crowd. So and then I know they have water cannons. I know they have rubber bullets. Maybe pepper spray. You hover and it would disperse it over a crowd. Would
kind of crop dust them.
It kind of crop dust them. Yeah, exactly, and that it would kind of disperse them. That might be nice because it's effectively harmless. It just would
pepper spray.
Yeah, well,
it's a non-lethal resort, but it's definitely not harmless. I mean, pepper spray can cause blindness.
Well, maybe a modified form of pepper spray then, something to disperse a crowd.
What, paprika spray?
Paprika spray.
What are you talking about? It's pepper spray, and it's very clear what it's going to be used for. It stinks that India. I really don't think that you can petition to say, hey, we don't want drones policing our citizens. Like, we don't want drones policing us, because really that the more. Because we saw it in warfare, and to compare warfare to your average police officer or riot control squad, whatnot, like it adds a certain level of detachment where you can kind of just say, okay, there are images on a screen, they're insurrectionists, yada yada, and you kind of take that emotional balance out of it when you're sitting behind a computer screen.
What about tear gas?
I have dealt with that stuff personally. Like, I was using the chemical that is the primary ingredient in tear gas.
Yeah, well,
and that stuff, it's not as bad because it doesn't technically have any kind of there's nothing really going into your eye. It's more of a chemical reaction.
Right.
But it's like that. Honestly, I think that would work. The only problem is I don't think that they can get a high enough concentration to disperse a crowd.
All right. Well, then, what about drones flying with little cages, filled with maybe rats, and you just drop the rats over the crowd, and it would kind of disperse.
I believe that would work in cartoons.
I don't know.
But I'm more specifically talking about the use of drones against citizens to police citizens, and again, this has happened in South Africa about a year ago. It's now happening in India, and I've even. I can't imagine that I'd be too far behind for, I'm pretty sure we're using drones for the United States-Mexican border.
We are.
But I'm wondering where's the cutoff of when we start using drones to just police everyone? Because really, there are a few things more cost-effective than a drone you can send out every day, not put a person in risk and danger and see things.
Well, you see, with drones, you have an advantage. You have a tactical advantage. That's what I'm looking for. That's unlike anything else that you could deliver. I mean, the fact that even with a pepper spray, you launch it with the shell that goes out, but eventually it hits the ground and kind of disperses, and has a certain amount of effectiveness. But with a drone, dispersing it downward over a wide area of a crowd, you really could disperse a crowd very, very quickly with something like that. I'm not saying if it's necessarily tear gas or pepper spray, but you could find something in that category that's not harmful, but you would be able to deliver it. You would be able to deliver it in a much more focused manner because of the way it works, and it may prove to be a tool that police could use much more effectively to disperse crowds, unruly crowds.
But that's kind of the issue I'm looking for your opinion on it, which is drones.
Yeah.
Do they really have a place in a setting outside of warfare?
Yeah, I think they do. That's what I'm saying.
You think they do?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you. Yes, but
I don't think they do.
Well, I think they do because they do. They're using them for surveillance now. They're using them. They're using them for delivery of packages. Why not? I mean, you have a basic technology, and with a little clever thinking, you can apply methods of a method, whatever it might be, that was previously really not practical to deliver, but the drone makes it practical to deliver by the mere fact of what it is.
And I can't help but tell the difference that there is an emotional disconnect. It's crazy to think about, but because every other thing up to this point has always been a police officer, some kind of squad, and then there was the protesters, the rioters, what have you. You saw them face to face. They saw you. That was how it went down. Now, when you just see them through a monitor, you kind of lose the point of it, and you can just kind of say, "Hey, these guys are doing something we don't like. Send out the drones. Let's tear gas them."
There's a song in there somewhere. Send out the drones. No, I mean, well, what's the alternative? How about dogs? They have dogs to disperse crowds. I mean, but even dogs they bite you. They can hurt.
Well, I'm not talking about how to disperse crowds. I'm talking about what role do drones have.
I think they have
in our coming daily life.
I think they have a non-military application. I don't think the word drone, because it sort of got its inception in a military environment, but so many things that we have today started off in the military and have trickled down into the consumer world. We see that in many examples, and I don't see why you can't use drones. Just because they began in the military doesn't mean they have to stay in the military. I think there are commercial available drones for commercial applications that can be used practically and very efficiently, and much more so than in any other capacity that we would have right now, and in many cases to be more safe and be because of the way that they're designed. I think that they could do a heck of a job. I mean, we have Amazon delivering pizzas with drones or whatever. Just because they were military doesn't mean that they don't have consumer applications.
Well, I don't discredit the use, and by the way, we're going to jump off this real quick, but I don't discredit the use of, the moment I saw the drone delivering the burritos in San Francisco, I fell in love with that idea. But at the same time, it's one thing to deliver a burrito, it's one thing to deliver a pizza, it's one thing to deliver a package, but it's another thing entirely to send out 5 or 6 drones to a protesting crowd that you don't agree with, and
it's not you don't agree with,
and carpet them in tear gas.
It's not you don't agree with. I mean, obviously, when police use dogs, it's not that they don't disagree with it, but something has to be done. If a crowd is getting unruly, or they're causing a problem, and you call in the police, they have to use whatever tools that they have made available. And why not use a drone or drone technology to help them manage a crowd?
I am such an animal lover. If we can get dogs out of the way of being kicked or harmed, and instead use drones, in worst case scenarios, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we really don't see riots on that scale happen here all too often, and when it does, it makes really, really big news. But I guess in a last-ditch situation, I can see where drones would have an application.
And I don't think it would be a last-ditch application. I would think that maybe it's a step in between a last-ditch and a first application. A drone might be, yet another or a series of drones might be a gentler way of handling than something that's a lot more deadly, or damaging. It all depends on what they're going to deliver and who's delivering it, and that procedure. I think that they could definitely be a mid-step. They don't have to be the final step, but I think they're yet an alternative step that could be used.
Someone offered the opinion that maybe they should be equipped with hairspray and flames and flamethrowing. That would be a scary drone.
Yes, that would be a scary drone. Yes, but we.
Okay. All right, fair enough. But yeah, no. Sorry, it was. We had two really great guests tonight.
Yes, we did.
Both of them very interesting, and we only had about another 15 or so minutes to do computer technology news, brought to you by Slimmer Utilities. But it's getting pretty late, so just remind everyone that we do have contests going on. We're going to be giving away a lot of prizes this next weekend. Subscribe to our show reminder. Subscribe to our Logitech contest. We're working on a few more that you can enter in other places because we love giving away stuff. It's one of our favorite things to do.
Yes.
And it's thank you for joining us. And it seems a little bit early to say goodnight, but
let's
2 minutes.
Yeah, let's talk about who's coming up on tomorrow night's show. Tomorrow night we're going to have in the first hour. Now Ben is going to be out, so it's going to be me and myself and I. Maybe I might be able to get Charles Tendell if I can get a hold of him, or maybe Aaron might want to co-host with me. But in the first hour, we're going to have My Digital Shield. Andrew Bagrin is the CEO of the company. He's going to be on the show, and My Digital Shield is focused on helping the underserved small business easily secure their businesses, which are highly vulnerable to cyber attacks. And that's going to be the first. You see, that's why I want to get Charles Tendell there. And also with him is going to be Nerds on Site, which is and they've kind of partnered up together. So they're going to be talking about cybersecurity and why it's become such a big issue lately.
90 seconds.
So they're going to be on in the first hour, and then in the second hour, it's going to be something called Ninja Metrics. Dr. Dimitri Williams is going to be joining us in there. This is Ninja Metrics is the creator of a social value, a precise measurement of how users influence each other and how much that influence is worth. Okay, they use something called the Katana Social Analytics Engine. It uses predictive analysis and automated social graph analysis to help companies identify, understand, monetize, and keep their most valuable, influenceable, and influential customers. So that's going to be for both hours. It's going to be an interesting show. Ben, I guess you're heading off to Baltimore.
Yeah, I regret not being able to make it. Sounds like fun.
It sounds like fun, and hopefully I can get Charles Tendell to join us. It should be an interesting show. Again, our thanks to both of our guests. Again, Dr. Jan Kamanish from IBM's Research Division, a cryptographer, and of course our first hour guest, Rashid Zahadi. So that about wraps it up. So until tomorrow night, this is Craig Crossman hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy. We'll see you tomorrow night.
10 seconds.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Okay, everybody, thanks for being with us here tonight. It was a fun show, very interesting show, and we will see you tomorrow night with our two new guests and of course another News Test Bulletin review from Marty Winston. Have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.